I finally did it. I've been talking about making some big changes to my portfolio for months now, and I finally pulled the trigger. So I want to share with you the 6 holdings that I sold and the 2 that I bought. And this is the type of quality you get with my channel. I share these things with you. I am transparent. I share my portfolio, my strategies, my bullish and bearish theses, and so much more. And I think that's going to benefit you to see an actual portfolio and follow along with the actual things that happen to it. That's how I learn best, and I think that's how you guys can learn best too, is by hands-on seeing things as they happen and taking things that you think are good that I do and bad that I do and maybe applying them to your own strategy and portfolio. And so if you like that type of content, be sure to subscribe. I'm somebody that I don't flash, these spec stocks and something's going to 10x in 2 months. No, I'm a slow and steady investor, which I think in quality companies like I am is the way to go long term. So it might not be the sexiest portfolio or channel out there, but I think it's a high quality one. So let's get into looking at my old portfolio and what that looked like. So you will see here I had 24 holdings. Now, I have said it for a while now, I've done some videos, but there is some research that says the best amount of holdings to hold is between 10 and 20. If you hold above 20, you're kind of watering down your opportunities for profits. And if you hold less than 10, you're taking on too much risk. So I have 24 holdings, so I wanted to cut that down to at least 20, which I did this time. So let's see what I sold. I sold FNCL, which is a financials ETF. I sold FREL, which is a real estate ETF. I sold FIDU, which is an industrials ETF. I sold out of Coca-Cola. I know that's going to be controversial, but I'll explain why, as well as AbbVie. I will explain why as well. And then I sold out of FHLC, which is a healthcare ETF. So I got rid of these 6 holdings, and this is what my portfolio used to look like, but now it looks like this. This is my portfolio. I have 20 holdings now, which gets me at that high end of what the recommendations are, and I agreed to because I did a video on it, and I think it's a great number between 10 and 20. I think a sweet spot is like 15, which I might try to get down to eventually, but for now, I'm very happy with the moves I made. Now, the 2 holdings that I bought into, the 2 stocks, are S&P Global, which is SPGI, and UNP, which is Union Pacific. So you'll see I put some serious money into these because SPGI is already 7% of my portfolio and UNP is already 11.3. So I want to talk about why I bought and sold these stocks, go into a little bit more detail. And so let's start with looking at this pie chart. This is something that I've had for a while. I don't know why I don't share this more often, but I'll try to. But it's kind of the market value percentage of my portfolio per company. Microsoft is my biggest holding, but I have some other big holdings like Amazon, now Union Pacific, and SCHD. And so it's good to kind of look at different measurements of your portfolio to make sure you're not too heavy on one stock or one sector. And it's a good way to keep yourself healthily diversified. So why did I sell those 6 holdings, those 4 ETFs, Coca-Cola and AbbVie? First of all, like I talked about, I felt I had too many holdings. I wanted to bring it to at least 20, if not more below that, but 20 is where I'm at now. Also, I felt I had too many ETFs. My strategy was to have an ETF per sector of the market, but the more I thought about it, that's just hundreds and hundreds of extra stocks, making me way over diversified. So not only was I over that 20 limit of holdings, but I had a lot of ETFs, which really I think dilutes things as well. So I wanted to reduce those ETFs heavily, so I sold those 4. And then all of these holdings, I put them into a bucket because they all had less than $1,000 of my money invested into them, which to me, that's not a serious investment. And if things really did take off, that's not going to move the needle that much on the profits compared to an investment I might have $10,000 in. So because they were below 1,000, I put them into the bucket of possible sells, and all these were put into that bucket and the ones I decided on. Now let me talk about AbbVie and Coca-Cola. The reason why I sold these companies, one of the main ones is these are dividend plays. Investors like to invest in these because they pay good dividends, but AbbVie and Coca-Cola have too high of payout ratios for my liking. AbbVie has a payout ratio of 89%, and Coca-Cola has a payout ratio of 80%. Now, Intel. This was a company many invested in because the dividend was supposed to be rock solid. It was a high paying dividend. And Intel, the CEO, even a month ago said it was a healthy dividend. Well, now they cut it 65%. That is going to hurt those people that are already maybe in retirement that are depending on those investments. That's a 65% cut in your passive income for that holding, which is not a good thing. So I feel with these high payout ratios of Coca-Cola and AbbVie, it's just making them more risky for cuts in the future, but maybe more so slower dividend growth. And for someone who has 30 years maybe till retirement, I just don't think these were great plays as far as dividend plays. People might argue with me, but that's just my opinion. I like to see the payout ratio below 50%. Now with AbbVie, another reason why I sold is there's so much competition in the pharmaceuticals arena, and it's in an area that I'm not that knowledgeable and educated on. So I decided to keep Johnson & Johnson because they have a higher credit rating than the US government. They also have a medtech division, and I just think they have the capital and the means to be successful. I think AbbVie will be successful too, but I just think Johnson & Johnson is a more solid choice for me, even though they're going through their litigation issues. Long term, I think this will be a great investment. So I decided to just keep Johnson & Johnson, and I will focus on that company, which I think is getting close to a buy range, by the way. So Coca-Cola, the reason why I sold was the consumer staples sector has been very healthy. A lot of people have flocked to that sector because it's a safe sector, right? So I feel like of all the sectors in the market, this one might be one of the more overvalued sectors, and Coca-Cola having that high payout ratio. And I don't think they have the greatest growth runway in the future. They have growth, don't get me wrong, but I think there's other better companies, and I bought into 2 of those. So that's why I sold. And you'll have to give me your opinion if you agree with me selling out of AbbVie and Coca-Cola. Keep in mind, I had less than $1,000 invested in each one. And so I didn't plan on adding any more because I think they're both, Coca-Cola especially is overvalued, and AbbVie, because I had such a low cost basis, it was hard to add more. And in fact, let me just show you this again in the old portfolio. AbbVie, I sold at a 67% gain, and Coca-Cola at a almost 21% gain. So I made some good money on these investments. So I also factored that in, and that's why I sold. Now, what did I buy? Again, SPGI, S&P Global Incorporated. This is a credit rating agency, and it's a division of the S&P Global that publishes financial research and analysis on stocks, bonds, and commodities. And it's one of the 3 largest credit rating agencies. The other 2 are Moody's and Fitch. Now, the one thing people might talk about the stock is, well, the stock market's going to go down, and S&P 500 and all this stuff. But what are people going into? Bonds. This company will be busy rating those bonds. So I think they have plenty going for them. I will be doing a deep dive on this company. But for now, just know there's lots of headlines if you just Google this stock, such as this. It says S&P slashes Adidas debt rating as earnings tumble. They're constantly slashing or increasing ratings on companies, and companies depend on these ratings because that determines if others will invest in them, so on and so forth. So they want these ratings. They will pay for these ratings and continuously do so. And I think S&P Global, SPGI, is going to be a great investment for me long term. Of course, the other one I bought is Union Pacific, UNP. I've had a few videos on this. I had one dedicated video on the railroad stocks, shall I say. I'm very bullish. I think these companies, these railroad companies, are extremely safe. They're very protected as far as there's not going to be any new competition because it's very expensive to lay new tracks and start a new company like this. There's a huge amount of capital expenditures that they'd have to go into. So I think they're very protected, very safe, very low risk. And this company, they do increase their dividend at healthy amounts. Their stock appreciates pretty well. I think it's beat the S&P 100 decently over the last 5 or 10 years when I looked at it. Regardless, go back, watch those videos. I do my full thesis on it, but I think this is a solid stock for long-term, good, healthy growth in both the dividend and the appreciation of the stock. It might not be the highest grower, but it's going to give me that very extremely healthy safety of my portfolio, right? It's going to be a safe stock that I think will hold my portfolio up long-term. So I just really like Union Pacific, and I'd like to add one more railroad stock, but as of now, I have no plans. I just want to keep adding to these till I get them to a level that I deem is sufficient for me to say, okay, I'm ready to cool off now and focus on other stocks. So let me know what you thought of my sells and my buys. This is a big change for my portfolio, but I think it really is setting up the foundation for some good growth in the future. I think I had too many holdings. My portfolio was too watered down with ETFs that invest in hundreds, if not thousands of stocks. And so I think this was a very strategic, smart move on my end. And I just would love to hear what your thoughts are, especially on me selling AbbVie and Coca-Cola. I think that will be a little controversial, but I have my reasonings and I stated them. So with that said, thank you guys for joining. Be sure to subscribe. This is a transparent, quality channel, and I'm very grateful for all of you. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and thank you very much.